Let's move into Arch Manning as we just continue to make conclusions after week one. What if a 6-star last name, 3-star prospect? You've seen it all through the first about week now since this loss to Ohio State. Is there cause for concern for Arch Manning? Will he not pan out? What's your thoughts?
Okay, I'm definitely not going as hot here as the Kalen DeBoer situation. I think that Arch Manning is going to be fine. I genuinely think that people are going to start like. I think that the graphics and everything that came out and all the hate that he was getting online was just pent up stuff from people who already wanted him to fail or already didn't think he was a great prospect. I understand that he was skipping some throws. I understand that he missed a couple throws, and it wasn't a great start by any means. I'm not going to go ahead and say that Arch Manning like was just as good as advertised. Like if you have eyeballs, like he obviously wasn't. But like, can he be? I think he can. He played one of, if not the best defense in all of college football, and probably the best secondary in college football. Obviously, he's throwing to Caleb Downs. There's not going to be. It's not like his wide receivers were open on every single play and he was just missing them. He had to scramble and make time for himself in the pocket, and then there just weren't people open downfield, which is the major problem. I think that in any other situation, I think that he gets it done a little bit more. And even so, it was a 1-touchdown game. You could say that like Ohio State took their foot off the gas pedal or whatever you want to say. Texas defense held them up. But I think that with that Texas system, he's built up for success. And he unfortunately doesn't have the greatest wide receiver core of all time. But I think that he has a much better start in week 2. And going up against the defending champion, should have been probably the number 2 team in the nation away as your first game ever in college football, or not first start as like the starting quarterback of a major school. It's tough for anybody, and I don't think that he's gonna be nearly as bad as some people are like saying he's gonna be.
I'm not a big believer in the FCS tune-up games. I hate it. I don't like it for these top tier programs, especially. But if there was ever a time for one, it would be now. And then it would have been before this Ohio State game. We're talking about 2 people in almost impossible positions. Kalen DeBoer, apparently people thought he was going to be the next Nick Saban. I digress. We just talked about that. I get it. But Arch Manning going against like you just said, a former head coach and defensive coordinator for Ohio State, the defending national champions, Mr. Born on third base. But yes, he's actually a really good coach, Ryan Day. Caleb Downs in the secondary. His receivers can't get open. The run game really isn't even there either. And then the other starting quarterback for Ohio State has Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. Like, he's at least got something. Arch Manning, yes, the cards maybe have never been stacked against him in his life at this point. But in this game, we have swung the pendulum the complete opposite way, and you're on the road. I think everybody needs to take a deep breath. I don't know what else we maybe potentially expected. I thought he was going to be a tad bit better, and I did think to an extent that Texas was going to be able to compete a little bit more than they did, but they were still in this game with a little sliver of hope late. I got to give it more time. There's some stuff he definitely needs to clean up. He missed some throws. He missed the first throw of the game. But, I mean, my goodness, this was the tallest order, the tallest ask I've seen in a while for the first time official starting quarterback. And yes, his last name is Manning. Yes, we're thinking he's going to be the first overall pick and an NFL Hall of Famer. But that was even pump the brakes, right? That was even too much. And this game, the expectations going in, it was just, there was just no way. It was impossible.
Yeah, and I think the way this game was pumped up with the 1 versus 3 matchup, obviously the defending national champions, it was just all going to be so much. And I think that we kind of alluded to that when we did our preview, that like, don't expect anything too crazy. Like, I don't know if we said those exact words like directly, but like we were debating who's going to have the better game between Julian Sain and Arch Manning, even though one is clearly the more hype prospect. It's like, it was that matchup because of the fact that Arch Manning is going against, like, on the road, the best defense coached by an ex-NFL head coach. Like, there's just so many factors that go into it. And it wasn't just a regular NFL football game. Like, we were talking about it like a little bit like in just like call we had. Like, this could genuinely be like easy, like he probably will have easier NFL like football games against like easier NFL. Like that secondary is genuinely going to be filled with at least one guaranteed top 10 pick, and then further than that, probably a second one. So I think that everybody who's jumping on this arch hate train is, by the end of the season, will probably come back down to earth, because I just don't see a way, like a world in which he's just bad or this bad the whole entire season. And if he's not as good as advertised, that could happen. Obviously, he was a 5-star number 1 overall recruit coming out of high school. So is it possible that he doesn't live up to that? Sure. Is it possible that he doesn't live up to his last name? Sure. But I think that like everybody who's like preying on his downfall and is like just saying that he's like finished after like game 1, or maybe not even going that far, but everybody's gonna have to pump the brakes pretty soon here.
Yeah, dare I say, a little bit of confirmation bias kind of rose up in some of the talks. Like, you can kind of say your piece about maybe what kind of competition he had in high school, and maybe why are we crowning this guy. But I'm seeing a lot of, hey, he was behind a 7th round pick, hey, he's not going to be any good, or like this stuff like that. Like, pump the brakes. And I'm glad that you mentioned the NFL thing, because obviously we had talked about that off camera, and it was just, if things do end up working out, he'll say, or at least he'll think it one day and look back on this game and be like, you know what? Yeah, I've played like the Jets a few times in my career in the NFL, and that felt a little easier than this matchup. Like, I think that's a real thing. This was an impossible set of circumstances. And Texas, I think it's the same thing. We'll go week to week. Sports media is in an awful place right now with you have to have a reaction. You have to have a major opinion or a hot take on every single game. And it's just, maybe by week 4, Texas is 3-1. I'd have to take a look at their schedule. And Arch Manning's got it together. The offense is humming, and it just feels like, hey, they're ready for a rematch. They're ready to go to get back at it. They're in prime position to make the SEC championship game and make the playoffs. This is a non-conference loss too, so just from like the standings perspective, it's not like the end of the world.
And it feels like, based off the way Texas played against the number 1 team in the nation now, that'll probably be more likely than not, right? Like, if they're gonna put up a 1-score game away against then what is now the number 1 team of the nation, I don't see them losing too many games in the future. I don't know exactly what the Texas schedule looks like either, but still, like, it will be more likely than not that Arch Manning will get his stuff together and that they'll end up winning like a whole bunch of games and probably very easily be in the college football playoff, which is expected, but still, like, this week 1, like, just going crazy on Arch Manning, I think was always going to happen, just because of like who he is and what his last name is, but it's just so unfortunate.
Yeah, and I think we've given enough credit to the Ohio State defense, because we've said like how monumental of a task it is to kind of go up against them, at least on the road, especially in your first start. But that's a really, really talented defense. I'll just move to the Texas fan perspective here too, because obviously we were saying that it looks like they'll be in prime position if they can get things together really quickly here to have a very, very productive season, make the playoffs. If you're looking at that defense, you've got to be ecstatic. That Texas defense was amazing. Like that the other side of the ball was also really great for them. And I think that definitely should be recognized as well. The offense didn't play well, but that was it. The Texas defense looked like one of the best in the country as well, just on the other side. It was a great defensive game. A lot of people were disappointed 14-7, but sometimes you get good defensive battles, and, people are just going to say whatever they want, especially because the LSU Clemson game was more of a defensive slugfest as well, not a ton of scoring. So a lot of people were disappointed, but I digress from that point as well. Before the game, I know we were talking about who would play better, Julian Sand and Arch Manning. I wanted to comment on that before we got out of here too. And it was just, the closer that the game got to be, the closer we got to the game, the more I thought that both of these guys were not going to play very, very well. They weren't going to load the stat sheet. It was just about who makes the less mistakes, who could get the ball out to their playmakers more, and who can make a play as far as the receivers are concerned. And I thought Arch Manning was going to play better than Julian Sand, but I didn't think that the stats would show it. Obviously, that was wrong, but still, I didn't think both of these guys were going to play well. An impossible task.